Okay, this is your next task for transposition. This one is where it starts to get a little bit more tricky, because we need to remember the relationship between the treble and the bass clef. Okay? Now the treble clef is higher in pitch. Always remember that the treble clef would normally sit above the bass clef. You know, think about a piano. When you're playing the piano, the right hand, the higher pitched keys relate to the treble clef, and the lower pitched, the bass end, relates to the bass clef. And that's why you'll often see for piano they have this brace here to say read these two at the same time, because they're both your hands playing. Now middle C always falls smack in the middle of the two clefs. Okay. Now in the treble clef, in between the ledger lines, we've been through this at the start of the course and many times since, spells face. Okay, so if I draw this note here, that would be the note F. Okay. Now in the bass clef, in between the ledger lines, the little rhyme was all cows eat grass. So if I was to draw this musical note, that would be the note G. Now let's stick with the treble clef for a moment. If this is the note F and I come down in pitch onto the ledger line, below the note F is an E. Coming down lower below the ledger line would be the note D. And then we reach the point where we need another ledger line, which is the note C, or what we call middle C. If we move into the bass clef, here's the note G. If we go up in pitch onto the ledger line, we get the note A. If we move up in pitch sitting above the ledger line, we get the note B, and move up in pitch again, and we need an extra ledger line, being the note C. Okay, these two notes here, these are the same note. They're the exact same pitch. Okay, they're both middle C. I know they look like they're not the same here, but it's only because there's a massive gap in the paper. Okay, if you're actually looking at a proper piece of music where it's printed properly, all the lines are equally spaced, that's what we have. One ledger line below the treble clef, middle C. One ledger line above the bass clef, middle C. Now the next actual task that you're working on is this sheet here. And I'm going to put it up on the board. Okay. And it looks like this. Now it says rewrite these treble clef notes in the bass clef, keeping the pitch the same. Now I'm going to zoom right in on the very first question for you. Hopefully the camera will pick this up. Oops. There we go. So what we're looking at here, in the treble clef, we've been given this note, which is on the bottom ledger line. The first question to ask yourself is, in the treble clef, is this note above or below middle C? Now we know in the treble clef, middle C is one ledger line below the clef. So this note E is above middle C. If you look at the answer that's been given in the bass clef, we know that middle C is one ledger line above the bass clef. Therefore, our note E that's been given is written just above the middle C note. In the treble clef, middle C is one ledger line below. In the bass clef, middle C is one ledger line above. It gets confusing because the treble and bass clef are written on the same level. Normally, as you saw in my previous example, the treble and the bass clef are written above and below each other, so you can see where the middle C note is. So try not to get too confused by that. Question 2, look. Have a look at the note. Is it above or below middle C? Find middle C in the bass clef and then work out where the note goes. The next set of 5 questions ask you to do the opposite. It starts in the bass clef, so you need to rewrite them in the treble clef. Work as a team. Team up with someone that's confident with this and maybe double check your answers with them. And the final part, it gives you a whole melody here written out in the treble clef. It wants you to rewrite it at the same pitch in the bass clef. And it's already given you the first 2 notes. It's already given you the first 2 notes here. It's given you a full melody and it's given you the first 2 notes as the answers. So you know that you know where to start from. And you can see that the pitch goes down. So your music must go down also. Okay? Remember what we said about accuracy. If it's got a crotchet as a note value, for instance here, make sure this note here is a crotchet. Here we've got a semi-breve, make sure the note is a semi-breve. Copy it out exactly. Okay? So, to recap that part, because there's quite a bit in this week's test or SOLA activity, it gives you 5 questions. The first one's done. Take the note from the treble clef, rewrite in the bass. The next lot, it gives you the note in the bass clef, rewrite those in the treble, and then rewrite this whole melody from the treble clef at the same pitch into the bass clef.